Dr. Jazz.
Man, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you, like, if you're preparing or if you have recorded something new as a band leader, or what are the plans or on that department?
With Spin Cycle?
Yeah, a Spin Cycle or under completely your own name. I mean, I know you did Spin Cycle 3 like now 2022, right? So
Yeah, well, I started Spin Cycle with my friend Scott Newman, the drummer, in the band, and it's a co-led project, and we started that maybe about 10 years ago, and that's been the focus of my writing and my playing and any gigs and tours that I'm booking on my own. I've been really focused on just promoting that band and getting it out there, and we did 3 CDs, and we did a 4th CD that was sort of like an educational project with that I got a grant for, and we recorded 9 tunes, and they have like each one of them addresses sort of a particular educational concept, advanced kind of stuff, like polychords or multimeters or odd meters and keys and different forms and things like that, things that you don't normally come across when you're teaching and playing the usual group of standards that students learn, so it addresses those, and we recorded those, and there's an instructional book. So I mean, that's like sort of the recordings that Spin Cycle has done and where I've been focused. I've been writing a lot for the band, actually. But we just finished a tour in October in the Midwest and played a bunch of places that we had never played before. It was really fun, and went out with Pete McCann, the guitarist.
oh wow, beautiful.
And Phil Palumbi, our bass player. You know Phil?
Yeah, and I mean, I know Pete. We know each other for quite some time, so he's amazing. I mean, he's whew.
Yeah, Pete's great. Yeah, I really enjoy working with Pete. He's wonderful. He's a great writer too.
Yeah.
And so let's see. We also have done like different college gigs and different things around, and so that's been the main focus. I did a bunch of projects with my on my own with a group I had with Satoshi Takeishi on percussion, and different bass players like Doug Weiss played on some things, Ben Allison, Kermit Driscoll.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple of different second saxophone players, like sort of a 2 saxophone band, although like a 2 woodwind doublers band. So I played oboe and English horn and flute and clarinet, and different kinds of clarinets and saxophones. And sometimes Charles Pillow played, and other times Walt Weiss played. And one time Scott Robinson played, which was a great, a whole bunch of fun, because he brought all kinds of instruments to the gig, not just woodwind instruments.
Yeah, he's incredible. I mean, all you guys, like when I check the CDs I have you on, the amount of CDs you've recorded and albums through the years, it's incredible. And what you play, obviously, you and Charles, let's say Pillow, and Scott also, all you guys are like incredible amount of music you've done. So beautiful.
Yeah, we all sort of got, I mean, Charles and I both kind of came through the Eastman School of Music at the same time, and we both we studied with the saxophone teacher named Ray Ricker, and he was a doubler, and I mean, in addition to a lot of other things, of course, but he really promoted that. So we all wound up playing a lot of flute and clarinet, and in Charles and I's case, playing the oboe and English horn. and we studied with Ray's wife, Judy, who played in the Rochester Philharmonic. So we wound up, and I playing a lot of oboe, and I still play a lot of oboe on different things. Some projects that I'm doing now with different people.
Yeah, oboe is such an instrument. I mean, I did quite some touring years ago with Paul McCandless, and I remember.
Oh,
yeah, and he played the oboe, not so much anymore because it's quite a heavy instrument to play. But like every gig, we waited for the oboe until the last piece and the encore, and the audience just went like, yeah, like and he's beautiful, beautiful instrument.
Yeah, he's my hero when it comes to the oboe. Yeah. He's like my original inspiration for playing anything improvised or contemporary, in that sense on the oboe. Yeah. He's amazing. I've met him a couple of times. And when he's come to New York, and we've exchanged emails and phone calls and different things over the years. I don't know him really well, but I've known him. It's a small world of these people that improvise on the oboe. Oh,
it's not many musicians that are really masters at it.
Yeah, it's a real niche thing, but he's fantastic. What a great guy and great musician.
Oh man, he's one of the most wonderful musicians I was on the road with. So easygoing and so friendly. That's so nice.
Yeah. He's a good guy, and he's a consummate musician as well. So that's really amazing.
Yeah. Otherwise, you mentioned Paul, right? Like as being quite important for your oboe playing. Who were like? What was the main inspiration for you? Like, I don't know, mid-70s, I guess, that you started investigating the area of jazz and improvisation. When was there a moment that you said like, shit, I want to go there?
Well, there were a couple of reasons. One of them is Ray Ricker and him just saying, this is a way that you can be more marketable and more, get more gigs if you can play this instrument. And so I thought about that. And then I actually took a teaching job right out of college, and I told them in the interview that I could play the oboe. And I really couldn't. So I started studying like right away on the oboe because they gave me the gig, and I thought, well, I got to get this together. So I started private lessons and reed making like immediately. And then after a while, I started getting hired to play it, and I took more lessons, and it just sort of snowballed. And then at one point, I wanted to make my my first CD. And I had been studying saxophone with Dave Liebman over the years. And I took all the music to him, and I was only going to play saxophone. And he said, and he knew I played oboe because I played on a couple of projects with him. Yeah. And he said, man, you're crazy not to play oboe on this. You really need to play the oboe, and it'll set you apart from the thousands of saxophone players out there. So I played oboe on my first thing, and wound up doing more and more of that.
Yeah. What about for jazz? I mean, were there some players that you listened to that you said like? I mean, for jazz in general. I mean, in general, like on saxophones or reeds or flutes or whatever. Just like music-wise, that you said you want to go jazz.
Well, I mean, there's a the usual thing of like when I was in college, I was for the first couple of years I was mainly an alto player, and I just listened to a ton of Charlie Parker and Sonny Stitt and Cannonball Adderley. Like I really got into those folks, especially Sonny Stitt and Cannonball. I mean, sorry, well of course Cannonball, but especially Parker and Stitt. Like just really, really love that music. And then when I switched to tenor, I started listening to Stitt too and Coltrane, but like a lot of listening to Gene Ammons and Sonny Rollins. And I just recently read Sonny Rollins' biography. Yeah. The one that just came out, the exhaustive one. And I went back and listened to a whole bunch of things that that I hadn't listened to of Sonny Rollins, and gained a new appreciation for like his all of his stuff, but also the later stuff that I heard him when I was in high school in the 70s playing, and then then in my later years I kind of didn't listen to that period of him so much, but when I went back now and listened to that, it was I really had new ears for it and a new appreciation for it. So yeah, that was pretty cool. A good thing. And then another kind of weird connection is that when I was in high school, I my band director in high school knew Joe Henderson's girlfriend and got me lessons with Joe when I was in high school.
Man, okay.
Yeah, so
how was that like?
Well, it was interesting because I would go to his house and he basically taught like a 3-hour lesson and charged, like, this is in the 70s, but it was like $25 or something. It was really, really cheap. And I would drive into San Francisco and go to his house, and he would teach me a solo from memory, like they could make it up on the spot, like a Joe Henderson solo, but just in that moment. And he would teach it to me and make me learn it and memorize it. And then he would disappear for like half an hour or something and say, now practice it. And then he'd come back and we'd go over it and we'd add some more. And then he'd disappear for a while. And then he'd come back and he'd play it with me on piano, and we'd go over the whole thing on a tune. And then I'd leave, and then I'd come back the next week and remember the solo. And he would add on to the solo. And after he did like a bunch of choruses, we go on to a different tune. And that's all he did. He didn't
Interesting.
He didn't explain it even. Like he didn't say, oh, this is the 7th of the chord and this is a Dorian mode or something like that. It was just just that's the way he did it. So
yeah, but that's the way to learn the language, right? Just
I
guess
it is. Yeah, really, really cool.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, that's a cool experience. I mean, but did you ever play in his big band? You didn't. In his, you didn't, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed what you said there.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. If you ever played in Joe's big band, or in his, you didn't.
No, I didn't play on the Joe Big Band record.
Okay.
No, but I've heard that record and it's great. And I actually played a couple of charts from that record just recently up in Eastman. I went up and did like a guest appearance up there and played like the Without a Song chart.
Oh yeah.
And the other one that's boopy doo da. What is that tune? Black, I think it's called, or one of those tunes. Anyway, like a fast kind of swinger Joe tune. Can't remember the name, but I played some of those charts. They're great.
Yeah. No, I thought because you played on so many big bands, records and orchestras. I thought you maybe did that as well, that gig.
No, I played like in Toshikawa Akiyoshi's band for about the last, I guess it would be the last 8 or 9 years that she had the band. And then I did a bunch of other gigs after that, and recordings and videos, and a couple of tours where we went back to Japan and things. And I'm playing in, like, Rufus Reid has a big band that I played on a recording of that. And I play in this thing with Ryan Truesdell and the Gil Evans Project, which we've made some records, and we're playing at Birdland this spring. And played as a sub in the Vanguard band a lot at one point in the 90s, which was a great experience. In fact, one of the greatest experiences I've had musically. It was really fun playing with those guys, my heroes, Dick Oates, Billy Drews, and Rich Perry, and Ralph Lama, and Gary Scully, and those guys. It was like being around giants. Yeah,
that's beautiful. When did you, by the way, decide to move to New York, and what was the main trigger to do that? I mean, in a way, it's obvious, but why? But okay, still.
I'm sorry, the connection stalled out again.
I mean, I asked you, like, what was the main trigger for you to move to New York, and when was that? How did you decide to do that?
Oh, actually, it's interesting because I grew up in Napa, California in the 70s, and my vision of New York was this sort of, dystopian, like, wasteland of burned out buildings and crime, but I was kind of terrified of New York, and I thought, but I really want to go there and study the music and learn from people. And so um, well, I went kind of halfway to, or some on the way to New York. I went to school in Rochester,
Mhm.
and I basically stayed there and saved money for a couple of years after my degree, and then went down and made trips down to New York to meet people and get the lay of the land. And then I finally moved to New York in 1989
89 already. Wow,
with my
okay.
wife. And we lived in Brooklyn for 9 years, and then we bought a house out in New Jersey, then just outside of New York, a couple of miles from the bridge, actually. A few, after that, but that was basically our thing,
Mhm.
and I moved down just to, like, be around. Like, I really wanted to be where all the great musicians were,
Yeah.
like the best. And so the only place I could think of to do that, to be the challenge the most, was in New York.
Mm. Sure. Well, was it hard for you in
So,
the beginning? What were the first gigs that you got and connections when you moved here?
was it hard to make connections?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, you're like new in town, and like, who were the first people you hooked up with and the first gigs you got, actually?
Well, I actually wound up, I had this, like, piece of paper, actually, back in
Sure.
internet even. And I just had this piece of paper, and I had maybe like 40 or 50 names of people I knew in some way or another. And so I just started calling them on the
Oh, wow.
phone. And then, or I would go see them play at a club. And I went out to hear people a lot. And I sat in on people's gigs, or sometimes I would just go down and, like, sit and watch them play what they were doing. Like, sometimes I started subbing on some Broadway shows, and I would just go
Mm.
sit in the pit and sit next to the guy, and he would give me a copy of the book, and sometimes he wouldn't call me until like a year later. But, like, I still just kind of made as many connections as I could, and just tried to say yes to every possible gig. I also did some teaching,
Mm.
like I've been doing, like, I've always taught. Both my parents were teachers, and I really enjoy teaching. So, I did that too.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. But how did you end up, like, let's say, connecting with Lovano? Like, I love those records you did with Joe. What was the
Oh,
connection there?
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I connected with him kind of in two ways. One of them is that, like, when I was subbing in the Vanguard band, I was playing the chair that he played. Like, I was playing, like, the first tenor chair a lot, subbing for Rich Perry, and then Joe would come down a lot and hear the band or sit in or
Mm.
something. But then also, the guy who did all the writing on those albums, on the Caruso one
Yeah.
and the Sinatra one. With the guy's name was Manny Album, and Manny was a great writer from the 50s and 60s and into the 90s, I guess. He wrote for a lot of people, and he was a saxophone player too. And I knew Manny pretty well, and I think Manny had something to do with saying, "Hey, why don't you use this guy, and
Mhm.
he'll play, oboe and English horn and everything." And I had done some work, a lot of work, actually, for Don Sebesky too.
Oh, really?
Um,
Okay.
in the 90s. He did a couple big band albums, and I did like TV commercials and radio commercials, and other albums like with John Pizzarelli that Sebesky wrote on, and Joe had been a guest soloist on at least one of those Sebesky albums that I did. So I mean, I knew Joe, and everybody knows Joe Lovano. You know, he's like just a great guy and an amazing musician. So, you know,
beautiful. Yeah, it's like I mentioned also. I mean, at the same time, kind of when Caruso came out, I think like 2001 or two, and I mentioned before Gualala. And how did Gualala happen? And you as a band leader, when did you start leading bands actually in New York? Like, was it even before or?
Oh, knowing Ben Allison?
Yeah, no, I mean like Gualala, how it happened. Like how did that record you as a band leader happen?
Oh, well, that was through that was the album that Liebman was gonna help me. I took all the tunes to him, and that album would have been like piano, bass, drums, and tenor sax, and a whole. I changed the whole approach of the album, and really did it the way that he wanted, you know, or he suggested. And so I did that album I recorded it in the studio, in a studio called Clinton Studios in New York, like a really great studio. And I really good engineer and everything, and it was great. And then I shopped it around a little bit, and it wound up getting picked up by Naxos Jazz, which at the time was really great. Like Mike Knock was doing all that. Yeah, and they paid. They actually, it was a completely above board, like a really good situation. They paid you for the master, and they had amazing distribution. Like it was everywhere, right?
That's why I bought it in Slovenia, man. You know, it's like,
Did you really?
Yeah, I mean, I have an original CD. I listened to it today. I have still the CD, you know, because we had Naxos Jazz, and there were so many albums by the label, like Mike Knock and James Olar on New York Jazz Collective or something like that, and Foreman and some other guys. It's incredible music, and but sorry.
It's incredible because they really did the right thing, but and got it out there. But and I was really a blessing to do that. But I mean, it didn't last, unfortunately. You know, they don't have that label anymore. And I think they had like the distribution from their classical label, you know, that set it all up is what made it happen. But it was great, you know, it was great. So that's how that came about. And then I did 2 more albums with that band for placement recordings.
Pat's a New Year's School. Yeah, I love that stuff with Kermit one. I love that one.
Yeah, Kermit's a great musician. He's a fabulous player.
Man, with Bill, those records, Frizzell. Woo.
Yeah, I know.
Beautiful stuff. Yeah.
He really brought something special. You know, something different, you know. And then having Walt Weiskopf play tenor too on the tenor as well on the other on that record was cool, because it was he doesn't play oboe, but he plays great clarinet and flute and saxophone, and it was more of a tenor thing, you know, because Walt just inspired me, you know.
He's a monster.
You can't let your guard down.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Get hurt.
Yeah, he's really amazing. Yeah, he's such a player. But speaking of Gualala, before, like, how did you end up with that band with Ben and Satoshi? I mean, how did you hook up with those guys?
I'm sorry, say that one more time with that band.
Sorry. Yeah, how did you decide for Ben Allison on bass and Satoshi for drums?
You know, I knew Ben and had played with him in New York on some projects, and I really liked his approach to things, because he wasn't like just like he didn't ever do anything in like you know, this like sort of you know, predictable way. He was very a very original player, original thinker, and a, you know, super great musician and great guy. And I liked that he had this different approach. So I wanted to use someone who would bring something to the band that wasn't. I wanted to write for the oboe in a way that like was appropriate for the oboe, not playing like, you know, a blues or something, you know, but like playing something else. And then with Satoshi, it was kind of funny because I had a teaching job. I still do actually, at a private school in New York, and Satoshi was playing for the dance classes, and we would get together and jam like in between. Like I'd rehearse the jazz band, and he'd play with the dancers, and then we'd have like an hour between classes, and we just go in a practice room and play like saxophone and drums. But what was amazing about him is that we'd always go in these practice rooms, and some kids had like destroyed the drum set, you know, like you're in there like playing like a rock beat as loud as they can. So there'd be like missing parts and everything, and it wouldn't matter. Like Satoshi would play music, even if he had like, you know, an empty cymbal stand and the stool, he could still like make music with it, you know. So so I really admired him, and I really liked the his drum setup. Like he I don't know if you've seen he sits on the floor. Yeah. And plays all these different instruments, and some of them are Japanese, so they're like culturally connected to him. And so there's like a little like taiko kind of looking drum that's really kind of small and thing, and then there's cymbals and different rattles and different things, and it's a completely unique setup that's very specific to Satoshi. And and I've never really seen anyone do that except maybe Trilak Gertu, I think, did that for a while, where he sat on the floor, did that. But yeah, it's amazing. So I wanted something original, you know, like and specific. So that's how I ran into those two guys. And Doug played on a couple of tunes, Doug Weiss. And
exactly.
He and I have played in Toshiko's band for a good number of years and toured and stuff. So he's also a great musician.
Yeah. I also love your connection with Charles Pillow. He's such an underrated player, you know. He's so good. I think he plays bass clarinet on that one, right? And it's so good, man.
He's great. He teaches at Eastman, the Eastman School of Music now.
Yeah. Well, he's planned for the next interview, by the way, which is so cool that we.
Oh, is he really? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I was supposed to. We were supposed to talk yesterday, but my daughter brought home some stomach flu. I was like, I had to cancel it, so I think we moved it to next week. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So.
Oh yeah, Charles is a great friend of mine and a wonderful musician.
Yeah,
he's
beautiful,
incredible.
Otherwise, I wanted to ask you, like you mentioned writing before, and what's your process of writing? You know, like when I listen to Gualala today, like Cellular Coyotes and Cats of what is Olhar or something like that. Olhar. How did you write those tunes, or even now, what's your process when writing? Do you sit with a piano or?
You know, it's changed a little bit since I wrote those tunes. I mean, the Cats of Altar was sort of inspired by Liebman and Quest and all that sort of, you know, real open playing with like angular melodies and really sort of like hitting the tenor and drums thing as hard as possible. But some of the other tunes on that record, like Gualala, more of like tunes where I'm writing like specific lines and like really trying to write like a 3-part thing. So I would write like really like first I would try and like conceive of the tune, you know, like in my head, like think it through as much as possible before I start doing anything. You know, so that I'm not just like kind of blindly sitting at the piano and kind of going through things. But rather, you know, just one second. Okay, that's fine, as long as it's quiet, you know.
I have to fill my water bottle.
Yeah.
No, I have to fill my water bottle.
I'm sorry, just 1 second. Speaking of daughters.
Mine is 1 year old, so.
Oh, mine's 20.
Okay, there you go.
There's not a lot of difference, right?
No, exactly. They're still young, so.
Okay.
I just wanted to-
Yeah. Okay. We're going to let's see if we can do this. Sorry, now you're gonna have to edit this part out. Do you I guess we were talking about the writing process.
Writing, yeah,
right?
or even now, what you do, let's say with Spin Cycle, how do you approach writing? I mean, you said the last one was like really specific, but in general.
Yeah, well, with Spin Cycle, I've been you know, I've been writing sort of I don't know. I've been sort of a little more random in that I'll get an idea and I'll just sort of write something is one way. And then another thing is that, you know, sometimes we'll say, oh, we need a such and such kind of tune. We need a ballad, or we need something fast, you know, or something. And so I'll just go to work on that. A lot of times with that band, I'll be inspired by some kind of a mood or something, and I'll just kind of sit down at our piano and just start playing some things and figuring things out. And then one interesting thing that I did during the pandemic was when we were locked down was I tried to make a little project out of arranging like the least likely tunes I could think of.
Okay.
So for a band, like, and with Spin Cycle, I'm writing basically like 4 parts, you know, a melody part for me, a counter melody or chords for Pete, and then a bass line, and then whatever drum part our groove is going. So it's a lot like the band with Gualala, in that it's really like 4 parts, you know, 4 lines. So in this case, like I arranged this tune, this old pop tune called "It's My Party and I'll Cry If I Want to," by Leslie Gore, and I did this whole thing kind of inspired by Hermeto Pascal and that kind of music. And then I did some other tunes. I did like a Merle Haggard tune, and I did a tune by the Monkees, and you know, like I just kept picking like, okay, how can I back myself into a corner as much as possible and then work my way out of it, you know, and have it be respectable. So you know, it's another way is to like present myself with a problem and try and work through it, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's a good,
you know, when I was in college, I took a lot of writing classes. Like I did a bachelor's degree and a master's degree at Eastman. So my undergraduate was all like, I took almost all of the playing classes. And so when I did my master's degree, I took a lot of writing classes, you know, film scoring, orchestration, big band arranging, and you know, all those kinds of things, and did a tremendous amount of writing. And then I did some like projects after I graduated just to make money. Like I wrote a film score for like a short film, and I transcribed a bunch of music and rearranged it for a marching band, and like did all this crazy stuff, you know. So I got some like writing chops, and I studied composing with Dave Liebman a lot too. When I studied with him, he would say, "Oh, try this, try that, and look at this." And he's a great piano player, you know, so he could just show me all kinds of things. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you about Dave, how you met him, but yeah, now you answered how you ended in his big band.
Yeah, I mean, I met him. Yeah, I've played in his big band. I've played some smaller projects with him, like for saxophone quartet and string quartet and percussion and different concerts and things. And I mean, I basically met him when I was in high school. He was, at a jazz festival, where he was like the guest artist. And then I went to when I went to Eastman, it was like a guest soloist, and he's just so ubiquitous, he's on everybody's record, and with every situation you run into him. And so then when I moved to New York, before I moved to New York, I knew I wanted to study with him and kind of get like postgraduate studies because I couldn't really figure out very well. Actually, this connects to Charles Pillow, and is that Charles Pillow is the first person that ever played for me the Dave Liebman, Elvin Jones, Steve Grossman, Gene Perla Live at the Lighthouse recording.
Oh, man.
And Charles, yeah, Charles he goes, man, check this out, like on a cassette in a practice room. And I was completely blown away, but I could not for the life of me figure out, like, what are they playing? Like, where do these lines come from? All this chromaticism and everything. And so I transcribed and I thought about it, and I found books and different things. But I also went to Dave to figure that out. And just go, what's up? What's happening here? What is this?
That's good. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster. Still amazing.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He's a great spirit and a great musician.
Definitely.
Yeah. For sure.
How did you also, I wanted to ask you before, or already kind of going chronologically, but I have you also on John Hollenbeck's records, and I'm such a huge fan of Hollenbeck.
Yeah.
How did you end up in that ensemble? I mean, and your connection with John?
Well, this is funny because I actually, when I was a graduate student at Eastman, I taught in their summer high school jazz band program. And I think the first summer I taught in it, John was in the combo that I taught.
Oh, really? Oh, shit. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Maybe the second summer or something. But like, I remember distinctly like hearing him play as a high school kid and going, oh boy, wow, this kid's got something here. Just in the way he played the ride cymbal, and the sound and everything. And so I knew John from there. And then when he put his big band together, initially I played some of the first rehearsals, and he originally had like 2 or 3 tenor players, I think, or something like that in it. And then a bunch of us also played oboe. So I played English horn on some things and did that. And we did some gigs and different things. And then I had, for a short while, I had a band with 2 drummers in it, and with John and another guy named Scott Latsky. And I don't remember who played bass now, actually. But we only did a few gigs, but, John and I played together in that. And John actually played a couple of gigs with the band that made Gualala.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like some of the early gigs, and like where we were figuring everything out, and he was one of the drummers. So I mean, I've seen him every now and then, and he's a great musician. So that's how I wound up doing that.
He's a wonderful composer, and as well, speaking of composition, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I used to play in the BMI Composers Workshop, and John, I think, wrote some music for that at one point. But or some other group I played in. But he's great.
Yeah. Have you otherwise ever led your own big band, or you had like a bigger group?
What's funny is I've never had my own big band, or even for all the big bands that I've played in, I haven't really had my own, and I don't intend to. But
no, I know financially it's like a burden, I guess, but it's
a black hole. But I write, I've written some big band charts, and I wrote like I conduct this student big band in New York, and I recently wrote a chart for them, just like because they needed an arrangement of a tune, and I wrote it, and I thought, wow, I still know how to do that,
Sure.
from like 35 years ago at school, but not really. No, I mean, I I play in like Pete McGinnis has a big band. I've played
Yeah,
in
I saw
that.
that. Yeah,
And I've played in Darcy James Argue's band. And I currently actually I'm doing a project now with the singer Cecile McLaurin Salvant
yeah, I saw that.
and
That you have a
Darcy.
tour. How did you end up in that one? Your connection with
Yeah, we have
Cecile?
a tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming up in a month or so, we're doing a European tour with this amazing piece that she wrote called Ogress.
Hmm.
And Darcy arranged it and conducts, and then it's like a 13, 14 piece ensemble with a whole bunch of great musicians. And we've been doing that for a couple of years, and we've recorded it. And apparently it's going to be some sort of a little like animated film
Wow.
at some point, but I'm not sure when. But
Wow.
all the music is in the can, as they say. We're just waiting for. I think we have to record a little bit more music. But yeah, it's great. Cecile is an amazing musician and an
Yes.
incredibly wonderful person, and so is Darcy. And and everyone involved. It's a really fun project.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I hope to catch you. Where are you in Europe? Are you in Austria, maybe by any chance, or something like that? Or
Yeah, we're in Vienna, actually.
Vienna? Oh, shit. Yeah, that's 2
Yeah,
hours for me.
Oh yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I can tell you what day. Let me see if I can tell you what day we're in Vienna.
But I can check that out.
March 12th, we're in Vienna.
Which day is that?
March 12th. Yeah. Other than that, it's like we're in like
Tuesday.
Belgium and Luxembourg, and Germany, and places like that.
Beautiful. Wow, super.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
if you come, make sure you say hi.
Oh man, I would. If I come, yeah, I will definitely pull you. We'll have a beer together.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Tom, otherwise, like,
Yeah.
what are still your plans for the upcoming months? I mean, beside this tour and some gigs and recordings still coming up, and
I have I have I have that tour, and I have a week at Birdland with Ryan Truesdell's project, the Gil Evans project. Playing at Smalls.
okay.
I'm playing yeah, that's great. We play there with Spin Cycle a pretty fair amount. And we just played at a club called the Django in New York. And then we actually, and let's see what else. I'm actually in about a week, I'm going to go to Cuba.
Whoa, okay.
And play. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm gonna go there and play with a bunch of folks that I haven't played with before, and we're gonna play in Santiago, Cuba, and we're gonna work at the music conservatory there and sort of teach and play with the people there, and then do, I think, 4 or 5 concerts.
Mhm.
But I've never been, so I'm really looking forward to getting into that music. I'm reading a book now on the Cuban history and Cuban musical history, which is fascinating.
Oh,
and
wow.
So I hope to go there and learn a little bit and expand my horizons.
Yeah, that's a whole different universe. Yeah, Cuban, Jesus. It's like Indian music and Cuban. Those are two that I touch them a bit, but I'm afraid to go deeper in because it's.
You could fall in and never come out, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's scary, but cool.
Yeah, I mean it's true. I know people who do both of those kinds of music like that, but I'm hoping to just learn, when I'm there, and it'll be great to go someplace that isn't, so doesn't have a Starbucks and a McDonald's on every corner, a different culture, different people, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Beautiful. Fantastic, man. Well, yeah. Thanks for sharing some of these thoughts, Tom. I will leave you a nice Sunday. What is it, Sunday? Yeah, today for you. Afternoon there in New York. So
Yeah.
New Jersey, sorry. But I think we covered nice stuff, and so thanks for sharing some of it. So
Fantastic. I thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's great to get to know you and to talk about music.
Yeah, thank you too. And I'll send you a link when this is out.